Hello there, everyone, and welcome to your Story Hour. I'm Aunt Carol.
And I'm Uncle Dan. Say, Aunt Carol.
Yes?
Well, I've been thinking that maybe we should tell another story about an inventor. I know all those listening in, kids and grown-ups alike, really like inventor stories.
Well then, Uncle Dan, you're going to love the story I have all ready for today.
Have you been reading my mind, Aunt Carol?
Not really. I just happened to see a book on your desk and thought to myself that the subject of your book would make a good story to tell to all our Story Hour fans.
Well then, I know exactly who will be the center of your attention today.
I'm sure you do. So let's get started right away with a story I call The Inventive Mind of Garrett Morgan. Garrett Morgan was born in 1877, the seventh of the 11 children who would form the family of Eliza Reed Morgan and her husband Sidney, both of whom had been former slaves. Although slavery had officially ended in the South 12 years before Garrett was born, the Morgan family was caught in a situation familiar to many, not having the resources to do anything but become sharecroppers.
Now hurry up and get your biscuit down, Garrett. Everybody else is out there picking cotton and you're big enough to help. Why, you're almost 6.
Yes, Mama, but I don't like picking cotton in the morning. I get all wet from the dew.
Well, you'll dry out soon enough and we all have to help.
Mama?
Yes, child, what is it?
Do you think we can buy some land of our own someday? I heard Daddy talking last night.
I don't know. I just don't see how. All we can do right now is dream, I guess. Dream and work. And in the meantime, that cotton out there is waiting for you.
I know. I'm going, and Mama?
Yes.
I'm going to pick lots of cotton today. You just watch.
As all children of sharecroppers did, Garrett worked hard, not only helping with the cash crop, but also with the other family chores. Fortunately, however, he was able to go to school, at least for a few months out of the year.
B-O-Y, boy. C-A-T, cat. D-O-G, dog.
Garrett graduated from the 6th grade at Branch Elementary School, a school for black children. It was the highest grade taught at the school, and it would mark the end of his formal education. But Garrett was a bright and observant boy, and as he grew older, he realized that if he didn't move forward with his life, he might be trapped as a sharecropper forever. So in 1891, when he was just 14 years old, he bravely told his family goodbye and headed north, first to Cincinnati, Ohio, where he worked as a handyman, and then on to Cleveland.
I hope nobody sees me climbing into this boxcar, but I've got to sleep somewhere, and I've only got 10 cents in my pocket. There. I guess maybe I can curl up in the corner for the night. I'm just gonna have to make do until I can find a job. First thing tomorrow morning, I'll start looking.
Well, sure, I know I have a sign in my window, help wanted, but I don't think you're right for the job. Sorry. Go on with you now.
Nope. Nothing here for you, I'm afraid. I'm looking for somebody, older.
And so it went. Finally, however, after being turned down again and again and again, Garrett's luck changed when he applied at the Root and McBride dry goods store, which manufactured and sold blankets, curtains, clothes, and other items.
Well, I guess I can give you a try. You keep my business swept clean every day, and I'll pay you $5 a week. If you do a good job now.
Yes, sir.
But Garrett wasn't destined to sweep floors forever. He watched while the curtains and other products were made, observed how the sewing machines worked, and over time taught himself to adjust and repair the machines. He then began to branch out to other companies, helping to repair their machines as well.
See there? This thread keeps breaking. Nothing I do seems to help.
Well, now, I know exactly what's wrong. Let me just lift this up and... Aha! Just as I thought.
Not only could he fix the machines, but he also invented specialized parts that made them work more efficiently. Then, in 1907, when he was 30 years old, Garrett opened his own shop to sell and repair sewing machines. By now, his father had died, but by hard work, Garrett had saved enough money to buy a house and send for his mother. The next year, he married a seamstress by the name of Mary Ann Hassick. Since it was an interracial marriage, both families were against it. But eventually, at least some of their family members accepted them, and they were very happy together. Then, in 1909, Garrett opened a successful tailor shop.
You see, Mary, we're not only making dresses and suits, but coats as well, and we have 32 people employed in our factory.
I'm so proud of you, Garrett. And to think when you left home all those years ago, you had absolutely nothing.
Well, I did have a dime, don't forget.
Yes, well, you've certainly multiplied that many times over.
Here, let me show you something. Morning, John.
Mr. Morgan?
John, show my wife the trouble we're having.
Well, these machines work so fast, and the needles get so hot from the friction that, see there? The needle actually scorches the thread and even the material.
Yes, I do see.
So all those bottles of various things I have lined up on my workbench at home?
Mm-hmm. Quite the collection.
Well, I'm experimenting to find just the right solution to polish the machine needles so there's less friction and less heat. That way, we can continue to sew at high speeds without making scorch marks.
Garrett continued to try various solutions at home to solve the scorch mark problem. One evening, when Mary called him to supper from his experiments, he wiped his hands on a piece of fuzzy pony fur cloth. When he came back to his work area after he'd eaten, he noticed something very strange.
Mary, come look at this.
Yes, dear, what is it?
See here? I wiped my hands on this cloth when I came to supper, and now look, the fibers aren't curly anymore.
Why, they've all straightened out.
Yes! I wonder...
Soon, Garrett was experimenting with his magical straightener. And what better subject to try it on than the neighbor's curly-coated Airedale dog?
I know. Just hold still for a minute. This won't hurt you, I promise.
Very soon, the results were evident.
Go on now. Scram! Get off my porch. I don't want any stray dogs hanging around here.
No! Don't you recognize him? That's your dog.
What? No, but my dog has curly hair.
It's my fault. I've been experimenting and I sort of straightened his hair.
You what? Well, I'll be. It's amazing what a different hairdo will do.
Next, Garrett tried the solution on his own hair and found that it straightened his curls as well. Soon, the G.A. Morgan Hair Refining Company was up and running, manufacturing his human hair straightener along with other hair care products and enjoying excellent success. But Garrett Morgan's inventive mind was just revving up, so to speak. Whenever he saw a need, he automatically began to seek a remedy to solve the problem.
Did you see this article in the newspaper, Mary, about the fire last night?
Yes. Fortunately, no one died, but still...
I know. It says several of the firemen were overcome with smoke. They're all expected to survive, but...
Oh, I know that look, Garrett, my dear. Your mental wheels are turning.
It's just that I've noticed before that most of the heat and smoke from a fire rises, while there's still cooler, clearer air near the floor. So if the fireman could breathe the air nearer the floor, maybe, just maybe...
But a fireman can't very well go into a burning building crawling on his stomach.
Maybe not, but I wonder...
Garrett soon went to work to help make firemen safer. After tinkering and experimenting, he came up with a novel design for a protective hood made of fire-resistant materials. In the front of the hood, there was a panel through which the firemen could see, and below the chin, 2 hoses were fastened, one to the left and one to the right. Each of the hoses then wrapped around the fireman, one under his right arm and one under his left. These two hoses then met in back and joined into a long single floor-length hose with absorbent sponge-like materials inside the end that could be dampened. He patented the device in 1914.
So you see, sir, if one of your firemen has to enter a building full of smoke, he'll now be able to breathe the cooler air nearer the floor through the tubes. And that air will be filtered and made even cooler by the dampened material at the end.
Yes, I see. What do you call your hood or breather?
I call it the Morgan Safety Hood.
Do you have more of these? All the other fire departments will want them too.
Several of Cleveland's businessmen and I are joining together to form the National Safety Device Company. The Morgan Safety Hood will soon be in production.
Over the next months, Garrett traveled to various places to demonstrate how the safety hood worked, and it was well received. In the South, where some folks at that time were reluctant to order a device invented by a black man, Garrett was cleverly billed as Big Chief Mason, an American Indian. In fact, Garrett did have some Indian ancestry, so the trick worked well and the demonstrations were amazing.
Ladies and gentlemen, come in. Closer now. That's right. Gather around. My name is Charles Salem, Cleveland's former Director of Public Works. And this gentleman is Big Chief Mason.
Greetings to all.
Chief, if you demonstrate how to put on the Morgan Safety Hood, I'll fill these folks in on a few details while they watch. Are you ready to get started?
Ready, Mr. Salem.
Very good. Now, as you can see, we've erected a large canvas tent, secured the flaps. Inside the tent, we've built a vigorous fire. Ah, look, there. Now you can see some of the smoke curling around the flaps.
Look there! Black smoke!
Wow, did you get a whiff of that?
It smells terrible.
Yes, folks, that's because the fuel for the fire inside the tent is made up of some dangerous and evil-smelling things. Formaldehyde, for one. Tar sulfur and manure.
You mean the chief is actually going in there?
Yes, that's exactly what I mean. Are you ready, Chief Mason?
Ready.
Before you go in, turn around so everyone can see the hose in the back. That's good. I'm sure you can see the hose that extends all the way to the ground. That's the air intake hose. And here's the valve for the air the chief will breathe out.
He's gonna breathe.
All right, then. Let's just move over to the tent. I'll just open the flap. Oh! Okay, Chief, in you go. And now, I'll close the flap behind him. There.
Are you sure he's gonna be all right?
It'll kill him. Nobody could survive that.
He'll not only survive, folks, he'll be in there for 20 minutes.
What? 20 minutes?
All right, everyone, set your watches.
Every such demonstration was dramatic. Thick billows of black, noxious smoke filled the tent, and observers knew instantly that such smoke could kill man or beast in seconds. Yet Chief Mason, wearing the safety hood, was to remain inside not for seconds, but for 20 minutes. And then...
All right, Big Chief Mason, time's up. Come on out. And there he is. Take the hood off, Chief. Show the folks that you're okay.
Big Chief Mason is fine.
The tent fire demonstrations and other tests, which show that Morgan's safety hood also protected people from various chemicals and gases, gave wide recognition to the invention. Soon it earned acclaim at the Second International Exposition of Safety and Sanitation in New York City.
The first Grand Prize Gold Medal Award for the 1914 exposition goes to Garrett Morgan for the Morgan Safety Hood.
Also, while Garrett was still in New York, a subway disaster gave the opportunity to demonstrate how well the hood protected firemen as they rescued victims from the subway tunnel. But the safety hood's most important test was yet to come once he returned home. The city of Cleveland's drinking water came from Lake Erie, but because of contamination that was already present by the late 1800s, the city had to keep extending the intake tunnels for fresh water farther and farther out into the lake where the water was cleaner. Cave-ins and explosions, unfortunately, were common occurrences as new tunnels were dug by the men called sandhogs, who sometimes spent months offshore in the tunnels or vertical platforms called cribs.
So you see, Gustav, we need another crib. Crib number 5 sunk in the lake 5 miles beyond crib 4. Workers from 4 and 5 can then begin tunneling towards each other to connect them. That will put our intake point much farther out into cleaner water.
Yeah, I see your plan here, but you know my concern.
Absolutely. It's the concern of us all.
We've already lost something like 70 sandhogs excavating the other tunnels, killed by poisonous gas, crushed by cave-ins, incinerated by explosions from leaking gas. As an old sandhog myself, I, Gustav Van Dusen, in my position as chief of crib number 5, want every precaution taken.
Understood, Gustav. Understood.
Work on crib number 5 began on August 3, 1914, when the huge steel platform and shaft, which extended far into the water, was set into the desired spot, with the deepest portion of the shaft being sunk 40 or 50 feet into the muddy lake bottom. The platform itself was about the size of 1/3 of a football field, and inside the shaft was a large elevator which transported the sandhogs and equipment down below the lake bottom and hauled the dirt they excavated to the surface. There was also an airlock and air compressors to keep good air flowing and the tunnel pressurized. The 85 men living on crib number 5 worked 24 hours a day on the tunnel, which was 10 feet in diameter. By the summer of 1916, work was going well, and best of all, no men on crib number 5 had lost their lives. But danger was always a nagging concern, and it came into focus on the night of July 22nd. Sandhog William Moore was working in the tunnel when...
What? Oh, no! There's a hole! The floor of the tunnel's blown open a foot wide! I've got to get to the surface. Gas is pouring in. It could blow any second.
Moore made his way to the surface, and one experienced sandhog, overhearing the news and knowing the disaster that could follow, wisely hailed the boat that taxied men and equipment to and from the crib.
Take me to shore. I quit. There's enough gas down there to light up the whole city. I'm never going down again.
Once Gus Van Dusen, who was on shore, was informed, he held a quick meeting with city officials the next morning.
We're all agreed then. No one goes into the tunnel until the air samples show it's safe. I'll get the broken air compressor into operation. And I've ordered Mr. Folks, one of the crew chiefs, to build a bulkhead in the tunnel. Plus, I ordered up a ventilator to help pull the gas out.
2 days later, operations were well underway to clear the gas when Crew Chief Volks asked Crib Superintendent Johnson permission to take his crew down to work. No one knows just why he didn't think better of the idea, and likewise, nobody knows why permission was given. But it was a fatal mistake. At 9:22 that night, the gas in the tunnel 250 feet below Lake Erie exploded, killing and burying many of Volks's crew members instantly in a fiery blast. Topside, the first hint of trouble was wildly varying readings on the air pressure gauge for the tunnel. Johnson descended with one other man to see if there was trouble, and when he returned to the surface...
Explosion! Oh no! The tunnel! It's blown! It's full of gas! Volk's men are trapped or dead! What? Oh no! They're trapped! No! Come on, boys! Who'll go down with me? We've got to get them! We've got to go down and get them now!
That gas will kill you!
Oh, we're all sandhogs! We have to go for them!
I'll go!
I'll go!
Get the flashlight!
The boat's not here! Sound the whistle!
There was no crib-to-shore phone line, no telegraph connection, and even the emergency signals failed. Rockets launched into the fog were hard to see, and the distress whistle was muffled.
The boat! We need the boat! We have to save them! Shoot up more rockets! I think I see it coming
Even the boat used as a taxi between the crib and land was ashore, so no one could go for help. Finally, somehow, a boat did arrive, but without the equipment the men needed. Disastrous and desperate rescue attempts were made, but those who went down either never returned or were so overcome by the smoke and gas they barely made it back to the surface with their own lives. Confusion and terror ruled at crib number 5 for hours. Finally, someone remembered seeing Garrett demonstrate his Morgan safety hood for a group of firemen.
Somebody send for Garrett Morgan. With his safety hood, maybe the men can be saved.
Early the next morning, Garrett, accompanied by his brother Frank, arrived with 4 safety hoods. There are several versions of what happened next, but Garrett and Frank are known to have descended into the tunnel wearing the safety hoods. And after a heart-stopping wait by those topside...
There they are! They're back up!
They have 2 of our men!
Who will go back down with us? We have 2 more hoods!
I'll go!
So will I.
After 3 more trips down the elevator, Garrett, along with the 3 other rescuers wearing his invention, managed to bring a number of men, both dead and alive, out of the tunnel. Unfortunately, more than 20 men died that night in the tunnel, and many others were injured.
Extra, extra! Read all about it! Death toll in the tunnel, now 21!
But without Garrett's bravery and the Morgan safety hood, the loss definitely would have been much greater. Unfortunately, however, Garrett's role as rescuer was almost completely ignored by the press at first.
Garrett, I can't believe it. In all the news about this awful tragedy, I don't see your name mentioned even once.
The men know what happened, Mary, and I...
Well, it's just not right. It says here that several people have been awarded Carnegie Hero Fund Commission medals for their heroism that night. But if anyone deserves a medal, Garrett, it's you.
Eventually, Garrett was recognized as the true hero of the tragedy. And when it became known how well his invention had performed in such dire circumstances, fire departments all around the country began placing orders for the life-saving device. But Garrett's contribution to the world wasn't done yet. For instance, he and a group of men started publishing a newspaper in 1920 which they named The Call, that featured newsworthy items and events important to the black community. He continued to come up with many ideas and conveniences for everyday life. And then, in 1922, his inventive mind went to work to solve another problem. In those days, as the popularity of the recently invented automobile began to rise, there was often a grand, confused mixture of horse-drawn wagons and carriages, bicycles, automobiles, and pedestrians, all dodging each other in the streets of the nation's cities.
Hey, move over there! Coming through!
Then one day, Garrett witnessed a terrible accident involving a horse-drawn carriage and an automobile. The 2 vehicles smashed into each other at an intersection, badly injuring the occupants of both, one of which was a little girl. He immediately began working on the traffic problem, and his solution proved to be of epic importance.
So what do you think, Mary?
It's amazing!
Well, I was thinking that some way to direct traffic at intersections would save lives, so why not make an electric traffic signal? By the use of these arms that say stop, and by using different colors...
Yes, I see! Traffic coming and going on one street would be stopped when they come to an intersection.
And when the signal changes, traffic from the other direction would stop to let them go.
Garrett Morgan's traffic light was the forerunner of the traffic signals used around the world today. He obtained a patent for his invention not only in the United States, but also in Canada and Britain as well. Soon, the General Electric Company showed a definite interest in his traffic signal invention and offered him $40,000, quite a lot of money in those days, for the patent rights, which Garrett accepted. Throughout his entire life, Garrett Morgan's inventive mind never stopped. And although he passed away in July of 1963 at the age of 86, his genius lives on today, continuing to make all our lives easier, better, and safer.
Well, Aunt Carol, Garrett Morgan truly was a genius, and in a very practical way.
That's right. His inventions were all aimed at solving a problem, and interestingly enough, his invention of the Morgan safety hood solved one problem that hadn't even surfaced at the time he invented it.
Oh?
Yes. You see, just a few years after that deadly explosion in the tunnel, the world was in for an even bigger explosion of sorts, World War I.
Ah, yes, that's right. Say, wait a minute. I think I know where you're going with this. I seem to remember that the enemy used poisonous gas and chemical weapons on our troops. So Morgan's safety hood...
You've got it. By making a few modifications to the safety hood, the military successfully developed the gas mask for use on the battlefield.
Which literally saved the lives of thousands of American soldiers.
That's exactly right.
Well, I certainly wish that more people knew about this amazing man.
True, he deserves to be known and appreciated for all he's done to improve our lives and keep us safe.
And now, if you'd like to learn about another important person, take a look at all the choices in this very album. Select a story and enjoy.